the weekend. It's good to be back again. The children were up this morning, a little bit tired, but again, not the iPad. It's time for school. The weather was a bit cold. The buses were packed, but we were lucky to get the second one. So it seems that the message last week that we need more buses to be running during the school time is already working as well. It is quite damp. The weekend was full of different news across Nigeria as well. We'll be touching on some of them this morning. But how was your weekend as well?
My weekend was fine as well. Busy, busy, running for various meetings and events as well. So I woke up this morning and I was like, I'm tired. I said, no, no, no. There are people that we love, that we want to always interact with. So we have to be here. That is why we are here. And I know the same applies to you as well.
Well, yeah, you're quite right. We love to do what we do, and this is what we do best: bringing the news across the globe. Whether it's in Africa, Asia, and making sure that all our listeners are ready to take the week from us. And I say good morning, good afternoon to those that have joined us. It is 1 hour ahead for those in Nigeria, but those of us in the UK is still 1 hour behind. It's exactly 12 minutes past, and I'll slightly come back again to you in the studio, Mr. Archie.
Yes, listeners, Mr. Koiki, bringing you updates from Nigeria from our North London studios. And I'm Archie here. And this morning, we're going to make sure we bring you everything that you need to know. So just get yourself geared up. But let's couple straight. Because we didn't talk about transportation. We were talking about the fact that this morning, the children were going to school. We were able to hop on the bus. We don't say that accidents don't happen. It does happen. Here we've seen accidents. But whenever there is an accident, even when it happens that a particular road, there has been an accident on it, maybe a car knocking down people, then they quickly come and say, no, we're reducing the speed limit here, putting cameras and everything. So they do their best to minimize disruption, accident, death, and stuff like that. But if you look at the three-letter story that this morning you put across, the 11 births to death in Ondo road accident, 2 people have been killed in a fatal crash that occurred in Miga, Bakati, along Toro George Road as well. And then a truck falling on a commercial vehicle. So you ask yourself, what exactly is going on? It's just a weekend. Can you just imagine how many people who have lost their lives due to road accidents?
Well, it was a really dark, day for Nigerians back home yesterday, because three different states and there was so much loss of lives. Let's go straight to Bauchi State. There was a fatal road accident that led to 30 individuals, human beings that probably were traveling for different reasons. Two vehicles, one is a private commercial vehicle, and the other one is also a private vehicle. But definitely, according to the FRC, one was running faster and eventually led to that accident. 30 innocent lives died in Bauchi State, on according to the Bauchi State sector of the command of the Federal Road Safety Corps that confirmed the incident. Two people have been, something that we always talked about. Let's go back to Ondo State. Ondo State is in the southwest of Nigeria, and again, 11 people were burnt to ashes on the what we called a road accident as well in Ondo State. What do we know so far? Ondo State is meant to be the second largest bitumen in the world. But if you look at the current state of things in Ondo State today, the roads are not motorable, and likewise again there's a lot of impact that could lead to accident. Controlling of the vehicle is also motorable. 11 people have died in an auto accident in Ore town along the Benin Shagamu Expressway in Odigbo local government area of Ondo State. The victims of the accident were said to have been burnt beyond recognition as the vehicles involved caught fire. According to the Ondo State Command, again of the Federal Road Safety Corps, Mr. Ezekiel confirmed the accident in a telephone conversation on the ground. He said the accident occurred again as a result of overspeeding and part of the drivers of two vehicles involved. Let's come back to Lagos State. Lagos State that Tinubu says he has done his best. Ambode came, he has done his best. Sanwo-Olu came, he has done his best. It is not the first time that we are getting accident happening in Lagos State. But the one that occurred seems to be a continuous one, which is the same precise location. And again, precise part of what happened is a container that has fallen onto another vehicle. I mean, for those that might probably not understand, we'll try and bring, if we can bring the picture for those that are watching us, the engineers are working on that. Let's take a look at a 40-foot container. Imagine a 40-foot container dropping on the head of another vehicle, and that container is fully loaded, with all kind of different materials. And again, even if there was going to be a rescue, it will be too late. That is exactly what the vehicle looks like. 8 people lost their life. One survived. These happened in Ojo-Elegba in the southwest Lagos State. A truck followed on the commercial bus at Ojo-Elegba in Ward Fadeyi in Lagos State on Sunday, claiming 8 lives. Again, according to the Lagos State Traffic Management Authority officials who were seen trying to rescue the victim. It was just too late. We can't show some of the videos, but one of the victims, probably maybe the one that survived or the one that did survive, we could see movement still happening while the container was right onto the vehicle. The container laden truck has fallen at the bus stop at Ojo-Elegba in Ward Fadeyi, and as we say, may Nigeria not happen to us. Are all these something that could be avoided? Is the question that a lot of Nigerians will be asking. They are avoidable, but it seems the government of today says they've tried their best, and it seems that politics is exactly what is in their mind on how election will hold rather than saving the lives of millions of Nigerians.
Wow, it's scary looking at that footage behind you. But my question is, do you think that if government is trying to implement, rules and health and safety issues, putting it across to make sure that such occurrences, are brought to the barest minimum, citizens will agree to that? Because people are thinking that, well, we don't cut corners, we cannot make it. So people are trying to cut corners so that they can just survive. And cutting corners is causing people to lose their life. So, catch-22 situation. What do you think?
Well, cutting corners, could mean a lot of things to anybody. I mean, people try to cut corners, especially when you have the cowboy builders that bring, chaos into your home, hoping that you are trying to save money. But what we can say is, these accidents were caused, by human factors, and the human factor is somebody was overdriving more than the legal speed limit. Let's give an example. I was in Stratford. I remember, when we had that conversation, was it Friday?
Friday,
Yeah,
yes,
Friday.
Friday, yeah.
And on my way back, no, on my way going, I could see the traffic police stopped, and what were they doing? There was a particular vehicle that was parked in a complete different, location that he has meant to park. They don't have to see the driver. They can automatically issue a ticket and be guaranteed that that ticket will be paid or be contested by the driver. But in Nigeria today, it means that everything is done on a paperwork and the analog stage. So the drivers that are trying to cut corners should have been picked up by a camera, before they get to where they can create havoc. Or sometimes, like you said, cutting corners means that more Nigerians are unable to fix that vehicle that they are driving on, and you might be entering a vehicle that does not have a brake.
Wow. Wow. We say we are so stressed in perfect peace. But we hope that the authorities will look at this and know that they have to do something about what is happening, because life is precious. Life is very, very precious. And everyone's life counts or matters. Well, it is already UK. Now let's move on to some other stories, updates from Nigeria. Refs move to arrest MFN. What are you talking about?
Well, tomorrow will have been the deadline. I mean, I still have some of my Naira note here, but I'm not worried whether it gets to Nigeria in time before the circulation of the new Naira note that is not in there. But more Nigerians are trying to get, the new note. And yes, the headline comes up to say that it seems that Emefiele is still in a big soup, even though over the weekend, maybe the joy that election has been kind of, the naira has been kind of moved, from those that will probably be thinking that they might not have enough time to change that 1,000 naira, the 500 naira, and the 200 naira note. But something seems to be bothering the reps, and they're still trying every move to arrest Emefiele. They also reject the Central Bank of Nigeria deadline on the extension on the old Naira note, which was released yesterday when there was a lot of pressure. Remember that Tinubu was saying the same thing in Abeokuta, saying that, it seems that it's government, even though he was pointing. I mean, we're trying to figure out, if he keeps saying that, there's a skepticism, to destroy his ambition to become the president, and that skepticism should definitely be going to President Muhammadu Buhari, that has actually changed the naira note. Petrol crisis is still going on in Nigeria, but the reps still want Emefiele to be arrested. According to the committee yesterday, I've rejected a 2-week extension for the deposit of the old Naira note and announced earlier in the day yesterday by Emefiele. Now, what do we know? The House of Representative Committee on the recolored Naira note says it will go ahead to sign an arrest warrant against the central bank governor, Godwin Emefiele. In a statement that was issued by the chairman of the ad hoc committee, Alassane Ado Dugua, said the 10-day extension for exchange of the old Naira note is not the solution. We, as the legislative, that does not even have respect for the Nigerians in the first place, wants now the CBN governor to come and give them the respect that they deserve. We, as the legislative committee, with the constitutional mandate of the House, would only accept a clear compliance with Section 20, Sub 3, 3, 4, and 5 of the CBN Act, and nothing more. He added that Nigeria, as a developing economy and in a sentient democracy, must respect the principle of the rule of law. This same legislative does not respect the rule of law that President Muhammadu Buhari refused to release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu after the court has actually, annulled all the crimes against, that was on top of him. That has been something that the representative are not doing. But they feel that Emefiele needs to come and speak to them. And if Emefiele is not coming, the next thing is they would issue an arrest warrant. The chairman also described the extension as a mere political gimmick to further deceive Nigerians and worsen the economy and the social livelihood. Well, there's no economy in Nigeria because, according to Moody, that we have been following throughout my program this today, Moody has actually rated Nigeria economy to be in a worse shape. We'll be discussing that as there's more trouble for Nigeria, as again, Moody downgraded Nigeria credit rating. Starr Radio UK, your finest African and Caribbean radio station in London, the 30th of January. I'll slightly come again to you back in the studio, Mr. Archie.
Listen to Starr Radio UK. Interesting development there. But Yomi, do you think that, first of all, what was the purpose of the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria changing or replacing the old notes with these new ones? What was the purpose? Is it that?
Well, the president actually said the reason for that is because of the terrorism. It seems that more Nigerians, probably not the average Nigerians anyway, because average Nigerians do not have 3 square meal. But some have, the elite, the wealthy one, have taken advantage. But it's more to focus on terrorism. But I'm not too sure. But there was a story coming out from Nigeria that the 3 million that was deposited, or not deposited, that was actually given to the terrorists was rejected. They wanted the new Naira note.
Yeah, I even saw, on the page that we belong to, I saw some of the new Naira notes that
being colored. Yeah, they actually put it. There's a dye material that it's not advisable to do so. It's illegal. But more people are saying that if you're struggling to get the new Naira note, you can actually put it in a blue dye, and then it could change the color. And there's already the fake 1,000 Naira note as we speak already in circulation as well.
Wow. I think this one is
no be juju with that. Some will say no be juju with that.
No be juju with that. All right, then let's start ready. The update from Nigeria, 11:25 the time. With Mr. Ladi Koikimedia and not landed to the Archie here in the studio. Let's come to the Moody's grading of Nigeria's economy. What we are looking at this morning, where people are broken up this morning, their kids have to go to school. They don't have the money to pay their fees because there's no free education there, and therefore these kids are working on the roads. Those who are selling things on the road, which makes it, I mean, quite serious and can bring about accident, insecurity, and everything that is going on there. Now, what ratings has Moody's given to Nigeria, and what has the presidency come to, or the government come to say about that?
Well, this came out just 3 days ago on the 27th, but I just got the this the document myself sent to me yesterday. Moody, for those that probably will not understand, I actually did a program earlier this morning explaining that that Nigeria is in a big mess because it seems that there's a pressure on the local currency, and likewise also the foreign currency. Lai Mohammed has not responded yet. He's too busy at the moment, but I'm sure they'll be responding as usual, to either reject this or not. But we do know that the federal government continue to borrow money to run the operation of Nigeria. But the concern of Modi is, are we going to have enough money to fund the 2023 budget is the question. So Moody Investor Services has downgraded Nigeria's rating as the global credit rating agency expert. The government fiscal and debt position, the debt ratio of Nigeria is going into almost 70 something trillion, and we are not yet been able to pay the debt. All we are doing is we are still servicing the debt with 80% of the income coming into the country. And some of the project that has been used to run the loans that we're taking from China, either the Arab countries or, the World Bank, is part of the derail of the rail network. The one like Abuja Kaduna, there was one again over the weekend that actually collapsed along the line. The one in so it seems that the project that is being used to borrow the money to fund the project in Nigeria is also not up to 1 year, and it's currently going into a lot of problems. As the nation's capacity to weather the storms remains eroded by the deep-seated institutional vulnerability, the social challenges, the agency now rates the country a level lower at CAA1, sinking Nigerian deeper into its non-investment grade from the country previous and worsening rate of B3. So it seems that we have left the B3. We have actually now dropped a little bit to CAA1 for those that probably understand that, But the last October rating agency downgraded Nigerian's local currency and the foreign currency long-term issue rating as well as its former currency. Moody has a stable outlook on the country. This was the statement that was issued on Friday. The latest sovereign rating echoes the one by Fitch in November, which similarly lowered Nigeria's rating by one level at B, placing it 6 notch above default on a par with Angola and Ecuador. So Nigeria is currently now being compared with Angola and Ecuador. Star Radio UK, your finest African and Caribbean radio station in London. I'll return back to you again, Mr. Archie.
So do you mean to say that with all the loans that they are taking for various contracts, Nigerians are not getting value for money? That's what you seem to say.
Well, I mean, if we're getting value for money, probably maybe the second-hand train services that were brought into the country would have probably been better if we have used that money to buy maybe one and then probably use that to run that project. Most of the money that we've been taking from Nexim Bank, most of the road projects that should have been completed. Yes, there are some projects that have been completed, but they're also concerned whether those projects will last the amount of years. I mean, that it should have been serviced, that should have been used for the purpose. And we still have to be paying the debt, even though we are not paying the debt yet. We are just servicing the debt. So the real actual loan that was taken has not yet been touched. All we are doing is we are still paying the interest, and more Nigerians are going into more abject poverty, as of today, Nigeria still remains the capital poverty of the world. Over the weekend, more Nigerians are still yet able to buy petrol in their vehicle, and most vehicles have now been abandoned at each of the petrol stations across the country. Star Radio UK.
The 6th largest crude oil production country in the world. Interesting. Well, listen, as a Star Radio UK. Now, what about the western borders? Has it been open? Because we are looking at the moment there is movement and there is a trade or commerce going on, then we know that money is coming in and the taxes and the government will be making money. But has the western borders been open?
Well, the western border were open after a deliberate act by the federal government to close such borders for a very long period of time. But they actually been open, but there are still a lot of complaints, because goods and services are not flowing as much as it's meant to be, even though in the northern part of the country, with evidence based, we do know the influx of terrorism floating into the country. And that is giving a lot of concern to so many international bodies that in October last year, America actually requested the evacuation of all their staff due to the intelligence of ISIS operating in Nigeria. And we do know that they are still operating because in the last couple of weeks, more news are still coming from ISIS operation in Nigeria, and that is giving a lot of concern. I'm just looking at the business standard total from bombing in the central Nigeria has actually risen to 40%. Herders and farmers central Nigeria have been clashing over grazing, and the U.S. designated ISIS leader in Somalia was killed. But thinking about the persecution in Nigeria, it isn't what it is. Even the Pope actually commiserated with one of the, a reverend father that was killed in the northern part of Nigeria last week.
Wow, wow. Now, I'm thinking that if we are looking at, where this terrorists are coming from, they are not coming from the western border. So why is the government not placing, stringent measures in place in the northern border or borders where we know that this is where the people are coming into the country from, but rather being stringent on the west, stopping people from trading, just going about commercial activities where we know that they are not coming from there. Why is government doing so?
Well, all the previous government have not been able to do, locking down the porous border. So you can literally, if you know your route, get into Nigeria and then start living in Nigeria without anybody asking for identification. We do know that people live here as well, but depending on how you get here. But at some point, you would have where either if you're going to take your children to school, identification will be requested, or at a random you might be unlucky where a bus gets stopped or whatever. But in Nigeria today, it's not just this government. Let's take back to from 1999 when Olusegun Obasanjo became the president. All this reason also boils down to the fraudulent 1999 constitution that has been used rather than giving the room for state police, and we could have been able to identify the different atrocities happening. But you're quite right, most of the up north border has been open, and yet we've not been able to seal them. And the more influx of people coming in, the more problem is generating for an average Nigerian, whether in the southeast, the middle belt. Governor Autumn says again that for the last 4 years he has not been able to pay a visit to President Muhammadu Buhari, and the reason for that is he believes that as one of those that is also as a president, also the leader of the Fulani, is not going well in line with the atrocity that he has rejected, that the president definitely is aware of all the atrocity happening within the boundary of Benue State. And we saw that as much as that is happening, Benue State is meant to be the food basket of Nigeria. I was actually, asking my wife why we had 5 yams in the house. Maybe we're doing fine yam festival. But these yams are not coming from Nigeria anymore. They're coming from Ghana. But we do have Benue State, where the Benue yam, from what we have learned, during growing up in Nigeria, is one of the best yam. But today, the whole part of Benue State has now been wreckaged by the Fulani terrorists, which says they own Nigeria.
Well, listeners, it is Starr in the UK. Update from Nigeria with this online in Koikimedia. I'm Archie here in the South Studios. And I'm saying good morning to Akin Tunde. It's a good afternoon house, and I hope we all had a nice weekend. Yes. I believe so. We all had a nice weekend. Nigeria didn't happen twice, so that's why we are here this morning. But it's happening from Nigeria. We'll go back to Jomi for the rest of the stories making the rounds. What else is supposed? How many days for? Let me say 25 plus, let's say 1 day more, so 26 days with election hold.
Well, February 25th has been set for the election, and as more conversation around that continue, the question is, will election hold? The British High Commission, Katrina Lang, actually released a video on, again, Friday, ahead of the hashtag Nigeria Decide 2023. Listen to the message from our High Commissioner Catherine Lang on PVC collection, which end Sunday. But that has also been extended. But there's also a response, from the spokesman of the Biafra, Simon Ekpa, to continue to show our readiness to stop anything in Nigeria in Biafra land. February 6, 2023 will be a ghost town sit at home across Biafra land to counter Nigerian INEC plan, mark accreditation in Biafra land. Anything Nigeria supervised remain banned in the Biafra land as well. Also, there's been a lot of response to so many Nigerians underneath the British High Commission, and one is coming from Sammy Boy. How many times does the Nigerian government be involved in the UK elections or politics? You just want to continue enslaving the African people and enjoying our resources in your country. Mazi Ifeanyi Chukwu also say, Madam, despite the only advice I am giving you is to leave Nigeria, because if you don't, I'm going to say the rest of it as well. Ebuka also said non-election Biafra land. As I speak to you right now on my right-hand screen here, there is also the ongoing of the Yoruba Nation peaceful rally going ahead in Ibadan, as more Nigerians are saying that it will be better for the indigenous people to have the last spoken, but it seems that the Western world still believe an election should go ahead. NANS wants all tertiary institutions to be shut down until after election. Now, we do know that the majority of population in Nigeria are the youth, according to the Nigerian Association of Students want all tertiary. Association stress that the shutdown will allow students to obtain their PVC. The National Association of Nigerian Students have asked President Muhammadu Buhari to temporarily shut down all tertiary institutions until after the February 25th and March 11 election, as we have it on the headline. Let's go straight to more other headline at 11:37 this morning. Abuja Kaduna train services resume after suspension is coming from the headline as well this morning. Also, Buhari appoint Dogara as the new NYSC DG. Governor Yaya Bello began Tinubu Shetima presidential campaign is also one of the headlines as well. Let's go straight. DSS also arrests syndicate that are selling the new Naira note. Imagine that you have to pay money to get the new Naira note as well. Government appointment loop-sided, lack merit of Basanjo Ekeremadu in court on Tuesday after 233 days. So it seems that Ike Keremadu will be returning again. We're not sure whether he will appear or he's going to be coming through the video link. But the former deputy president of the Senate, Ike Keremadu, will on Tuesday appear again in the court in the United Kingdom, which he has been accused of human trafficking. The lawmaker was arrested in June 2022 at Heathrow Airport, London, after a Saint police station received a report from a young man claiming to have been trafficked into the UK. The young man who made the report shortly after arriving in UK from Nigeria also alleged that he was made to undergo some medical tests, none of which he consented to it. We know that Ike Keremadu was arraigned before a magistrate high court and later was taken into the high court where he's currently waiting for the trial. His wife is still here but on bail, but the court refused to allow Ike Keremadu to go on bail in the hope that he might run away, just as one Nigerian politician dressed as a woman and was able to escape some of the atrocity that he was meant to have faced here in the UK. So the UK government is not taking any chances in bailing him. But we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but we're going to be following that story again. Let me return back again to you. When we come back, we go straight to the social media to discuss what is happening on the social media network this morning, the 30th of January 2023.
Yes, listen, let's Mr. Olaimi Koiki updates from Nigeria. Now let's come to the shutting down of tertiary institutions by the call from the nuns. Why have the government not taken to that? And again, the second question is that there's an issue going on. Is it in Tunisia? Yes, I think in Tunisia, where they said that there was an election yesterday, and the turnout was only 20% of the people who went out to vote. And people the opposition are calling for a stand against the government because they think that 20% does not represent the number of people in the country. I mean, 20% is too small a number to say that they have decided for them. With that particular part of the world, we can say that there's no insecurity per se. But when it comes to Nigeria, we see insecurity that is going on. And therefore, let's take a typical example of people in Borno State where we know the insecurity is right there. Now, why if somebody decides, no, look, we don't want to go out because we know that there is a tendency that our lives will be taken and stuff and wouldn't go. Do you think that if 20% of Nigerians decide to vote, would that election be upheld?
The election, in terms of, the breakdown, is very, very difficult, for us to get the actual, what will be the final end of whatever is going to be the outcome should the election go ahead. Even without, the full comprehensive of the polling unit result, which, a lot of people are already, having the feels. Even Australia is having the feel, the UK and other countries as well are concerned that election might not take place, not just in the southeast, as a lot of people might be thinking, in the north part of the country. The ravaging of the terrorism that is going on in Nigeria today might not allow some polling units to conduct a full election. But the question you ask is, with the less percentage that will come back, it will then depend on what is the total number that is coming back. I mean, let's take a look at it. I mean, if we have about probably maybe a million, people voting across the country, or probably let's say 20 million, and out of that 20 million, then you have to now divide who has taken the largest share out of the 20 million. Will the other political party accept the result? Already PDP is also saying that, it seems that APC Bola Tinubu is trying to create havoc, from one of their statements last week, because they are not accepting, certain things that is currently going on as we speak right now. We saw the PDP in Lagos State moving around with weapons, also creating havoc. But I'm just looking at the headline coming up now. One of the Labour Party candidates says, I will ban Agbiru. Agbiru are some of the thugs used by the same politician to oppress, to molest average Nigerians, whether in the southeast, in the north, but most especially in Lagos State and Oyo State.
Well, listen, it's interesting one. Now, when it comes to the peace pact that was signed, I remember Sowore was there and made a statement that he think that it was something that would not work or something. Now, did all the
If you just take me off for just about a minute, and I'll come back on the stage because the other broadcast needs to be a little bit adjusted. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, listeners, just bear with us. But the question that I was posing to Solari Koiki is that the peace pact that has been signed by the various political leaders, do you think that will actually, restore peace when this election takes place? But looking at everything that seems to be going on at the moment, I beg to differ that Nigeria will have a peaceful election because we have people who are not ready. We know people who say we don't want to go and vote at all. People, and there are others who want to go and vote. However, because of insecurity and everything that is going on, they might decide that, you know what, we don't want to go and risk our life for that purpose. And looking at the people, the Agbero, people that the ABC say that they're going to stop. Now, can they actually do that? Would we have the security agencies in that place actually seeing to lead that people can just come in peacefully, vote and leave that place and go perfectly, nothing happening to them? What do you think about all that? Let me say good morning to Aziz Badasare. And he says, good morning, Mr. Archie. It's been a long time. Yes, my brother, I hope you are doing very, very well. But let's go to Yomi and let's see whether maybe he has some response to that for us. Because it's quite a difficult time. I don't know. 26 days whether that election is going to hold on at all. So the peace pact, what has happened?
Well, the peace part, still remains as it is. It's just, imagine one of those that created the real problem of Nigeria, Abdul Salam Abubakar. Not talking about peace part. He designed, these fraudulent military decree 1999 constitution. Is not talking about peace part among all different people that believe that election will save Nigeria. Are we going to see the election being conducted on that same day or being shifted? There's a lot of information. I know that the last one was moved for another 2 weeks to prepare, all kind of contingency plan. But the question is, nobody today can guarantee that the 2023 general election, even if it goes ahead, will be peaceful. Even if it goes ahead, will give the result that will determine who become the next president. And even if it goes ahead, will still bring the unity of Nigeria are Nigerians as we speak today.
Well, listeners, interesting developments there. Moses, hey, he says, Archie and Olayomi, hi, well done, my good active guys. And thank you very much, you guys. If you're not there, what's the purpose of we coming here to come and be, mouthing out? But because you are there and you are listening to us and you're supporting us, that's why we are here. And I say thank you to each and every one of you, especially those of you in a part of the world where, because it's you are an arm and a leg to buy data, and yet to do that, to listen and to view us. Thank you. Now, Yomi, can you tell me a bit, or tell our listeners, those on this platform, a bit about the ongoing rally that you were talking about?
Well, as more engagement continue, in the peaceful direction, from the leader of the Yoruba Self-Determination Group, Professor Adebanji Akintoye, he says that the protest of the Yoruba people will continue, on the street of the Yoruba land, even in as much as we saw what the Lagos state government did. I mean, he actually granted an interview over the weekend, and in that interview he said, quote, that the case of the death of that innocent person would also be taken up, and the consequence of that will come back to those that are meant to have protected innocent Yoruba people from asking for their right to protest. So the one in Ibadan have actually just ended, but I believe probably maybe they're still ongoing there. But we do know that there's a lot of engagement going on. Yesterday, on Saturday, there was also a program that went ahead where the Think Yoruba Force were asking the question, where will the Yoruba people be in the next 200 years? It was a very, very powerful conversation, with a lot of intellectual. It lasted for almost 5 hours, and the question was a 2023 London conference, which took place over the weekend. In 200 years from now, will Yoruba race and identity still exist? One of those that were present at that particular conversation is Mr. Dele Ogun, is a barrister here. He actually gave a very powerful speech at the Libra House in London, where he took us through, what next after the death of Queen Elizabeth II. A question on the Twitter this morning, as we go into the Twitter slightly, Onyechi was actually saying, I've noticed that the Igbo and the Yoruba nationalists respect each other more than the one Nigerian nest. And Dele Ogun was actually responding, the new generation of the Igbo and the Yoruba are getting the message that they are the fellow travelers heading to their respective homes who are being held up by the one Nigerianist.
Wow, listen, it's already there. We know that our time is fast spent, but let's go to Yomi for one second to check the platform. Over to you, Yomi.
Well, social media is the only way that Nigerian can respond to what is happening. Hashtag Peter Obi for president is trending at number 2. Ambode is trending. Ambode was the former governor as well. Oyo State is actually trending as well. We do know that there's a rally going on there, but I'm not too sure whether that is only the reason why Oyo State is trending. There's still a lot of ongoing situation, but it seems that Seyi Makinde, the governor, attended the Fresh FM, Ibadan Blast FM town hall meeting. As we do know, this is the time that the politicians move around. Imagine that, the Oyo State governor, as part of the 5G governor, still hasn't backed Atiku. So nobody knows what is going to happen in Nigeria in the next couple of days, before the election. But we do know also that the new Naira note is not available. But right in front of me, some are already spending such money in large quantity in the Yoruba party that they love to do as much. Oshodi is trending as well. Oshodi is part of the southwest of Nigeria in Lagos State. And again, how Oshodi looks on Tuesday, April 22, 2003. Did you experience Oshodi? During that period of time, I mean, if you're not careful, you might be walking and your leg is not touching the ground in Oshodi. It hasn't changed much, but there has been a lot of different development that has happened there as well. I actually saw a video where people were trying to get into the ATM. The reason for that again is more Nigerians have not been able to get money. And if you go in and pay in the old currency, you are getting again the old currency on the ATM. I'm not sure why, but all this is what is going on in Nigeria. And we were going to end it there because of the time constraint. Good morning once again. I'll come back to you now, finally, Archie in the studio.
Yes, Yomi, let me say thank you very much for the wonderful updates. And I say have a lovely day. We catch up later.
Bye for now.
Well, listeners, let me bring you my favorite song now. From Jeanette. Is it already Demi? But I see it's better to say Yoruba land must be free by all means necessary. Now, I bring you this song because I know those of you who are still having the going on the rally. Yes, you need some encouragement, right? And I'm here to bring you that. So enjoy the song, and I'll be with you in a moment. Thank you. Don't forget that.
All right, guys.
Yesterday, I actually saw a full update, and I say have a lovely day. We'll catch up later. Bye for now. Bye. Well, listeners, let me bring you my favorite song now. From Jeanette. Is it already Demi?
Aforile Demi now. They pronounce it. Wow, it's been a long day so far already. I'm not sure what I got is on already. Èmi yòókù lóko fáráyé, èmi ò sọ nípa orílẹ̀-èdè mi. Ohun tí inú fẹ́ mi náà fẹ́ òun. Mo kí gbogbo alẹ́ nǹkan sí o, I gotta go now. Èmi ò sọ nípa orílẹ̀-èdè mi. Pápárapà. Orin òmìnira orílẹ̀-èdè Yorùbá. Parapapapa, 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 ọmọ aládé ni wá. All right, guys. Ayaka Demobe. Thank you so much. Okole Meka Ohe Biafra. Have a very good morning, good afternoon from wherever you're watching. I gotta go now. We'll come back at the appropriate time again. Let's continue to tell the average Nigerian that there's nothing called Nigeria. The British government does not want Nigeria to collapse. It is their pot of soup, and we must do everything